Dionysus is a dying and rising savior god who wants your devotion. But he wasn't born of a virgin or December 25th, and he's not the king of kings or none of that. But you can say that Dionysus, like Jesus, has this death and resurrection and coming back and wanting the devotion of the followers, like Jesus does. You can say that Jesus is the true vine and his father is the husbandman, something that you see with Dionysus being the true vine, his father being the reaper and husbandman, his grandfather Saturn, who is the reaper and husbandman. Dionysus was also by the Phrygians as Sabbatios, is a type of a godhead with father-son traits, where he takes on the role of a sky father and earthborn son. Sabbatios, like Jesus, is a trinity in a way, where there's a father, son that are mediated by some sort of Holy Spirit connection between the two, which is a very Platonic view of God. Sabbatios having the Dionysian son incarnation, but also the sky father incarnation as well. Clement of Alexandria says that God in the bosom is a countersign of the mysteries of Sabbatios to the adepts. So not only does Clement of Alexandria recognize some of these comparisons, but you also have Justin Martyr, who says this: "And when you say that the Logos, who is the firstborn of God, was produced without sexual union, that he, Jesus Christ, our teacher, was crucified and died and rose again and ascended into heaven, we propound nothing different from what you believe regarding those who you esteem sons of Jupiter. For you know how many sons your esteemed writers ascribe to Jupiter, Mercury, and the interpreting Logos and teacher of all, Asclepius, who though he was a great physician, was struck by a thunderbolt, and so ascended to heaven, and Bacchus too, after he had been torn limb from limb, and Heracles, when he committed himself to the flames to escape his toils, and the sons of Leda, and Dioscuri, and Perseus, son of Danae, and Bellerophon, who, through sprung from mortals, rose to heaven on the horse Pegasus. For what shall I say, Ariadne, and those who like her, have been declared to be set among the stars? And what of the emperors who die among yourselves, whom you deem worthy of deification? In whose behalf you produce some of one who swears he has seen the burning Caesar rise to heaven from the funeral pyre? And what kind of deeds are recorded of each of these reputed sons of Jupiter? It is needless to tell that those who are already know. This only shall be said, that they are written for the advantage and encouragement of youthful scholars, for all reckon it an honorable thing to imitate the gods. But far be such thoughts concerning the gods from every well-conditioned soul, as to believe that Jupiter himself, the governor and creator of all things, was both a parricide and the son of a parricide, and that being overcome by the love of base and shameful pleasures, he came into Ganymede, and those many women who he violated, that his sons did like actions. But as we said above, wicked devils perpetrated these things. And we have learned that those who are deified, who have lived near to God in holiness and virtue, and we believe that those who live wickedly do not repent and are punished in everlasting fire. Moreover, the Son of God called Jesus, even if a man by ordinary generation, yet on account of his wisdom, is worthy to be called Son of God, for all writers are called God, the Father of men and gods. And if we assert that the Logos of God was born of God in peculiar manner, different from ordinary generation, let this, as said above, be no extraordinary thing to you who say that Mercury is the angelic Logos of God. But if anyone objects that he was crucified in this, as also he is on par with those reputed sons of Jupiter of yours, who suffered as we have now enumerated. For their sufferings at death are recorded to have been not alike, but diverse, so that not even the peculiarity of his sufferings does he seem to be inferior to them. But on the contrary, as we promised in the preceding part of this discourse, we will now prove him superior, or rather have already proved him to be so. For the superior is revealed by his actions, and if we even affirm that he was born of a virgin, accept this in common with what you accept of Perseus. And in the same way that he made the whole lame, the paralytic, and those born blind, we seem to say is very similar to the deeds said to have been done by Asclepius, otherwise known as Eshmun. And so Justin Martyr in this 2nd century, he sees it all around him. He's living in the world where these gods are being venerated still. There is no escaping this. He can't be like inspiring philosophy and just pretend it doesn't exist. He can't. It's right next to him. It's standing right outside his door. So he has to address it. So that's the way he addresses it. He addresses it by saying that devils penetrated these stories, and not only that, why are you making fun of my dying and rising God when your dying and rising gods are the same? And notice how he mentions Caesar, because Caesar Augustus was called Son of God. Divi Filii, it's on the coin. So Jesus has to compete with the Caesar cult, the Son of God, who are seen rising up after their death. Julius Caesar on his funeral pyre was witnessed by many, and this is documented in multiple sources, that Venus came down and took his soul up into the sky, and everyone saw this. And then his adopted son, Augustus, after a 40-year reign, when he passed away, people saw the same thing happen. His soul rose up into the sky. And then it happened with another Caesar, Claudius, who also rose up into the heavens. You have Jewish writers like Philo writing that this Caesar, who calmed the storms which were raging in every direction, who healed the common diseases which were afflicting both Greeks and barbarians, who descended from the south and from the east, and ran and penetrated as far as the north and the west, in such a way as to fill all the neighboring districts and waters with unexpected miseries. This is he who did not only loosen, but utterly abolish the bonds in which the whole habitable world was previously bound and weighed down. This is he who destroyed both the evident and unseen wars which arose from the attacks of robbers. This is he who rendered the sea free from the vessels of pirates and filled it with merchantmen. This is he who gave freedom to every city and brought disorder into order, and who civilized and made obedient and harmonious the nations which before his time were unsociable, hostile, and brutal. This is he who increased Greece by many Greases, and who Hellenized the regions of the barbarians and their most important divisions, the guardian of peace, the distributor of every man who was suited to him, the man who proffered to all the citizens favors with the most ungrudgingly liberality, who never once in his whole life concealed or reserved for himself anything that was good or excellent. And this very Augustus, the life of Augustus by Suetonius, we are told by Julius Meritus that a few months before his birth there happened at Rome a prodigy, by which was signified that nature was in travail with a king for the Roman people. A star in the east that signifies a new king will be born. There's your parallel right there. And in the Senate an alarm came to the resolution that no child that year should be brought up, which is just like Herod killing the innocent babies that year because he did not want to have competition, but that those amongst them whose wives were pregnant, to secure to themselves a chance of that dignity, took care that decree of the Senate should not be registered in the treasury. Just like Mary hiding her child from the registry and not letting anyone know that Jesus would be born. You also have a miracle birth story with Augustus, that a serpent crept up to his mother and got her pregnant. Jesus has a lot of competition, and when he is being written down as the Son of God, there's a lot of ideas in the air that possibly are either polemicized or just straight up borrowed from. Osiris is the original dying and rising god of the Mediterranean. Osiris's death and resurrection is the new year. He was killed on a full moon like Jesus. He rose up during the springtime, just like during Easter, celebrated during this time. And the mourning ritual, the mourning over the death of the god by Isis, who, just like Ishtar, was also his salvation as well. Because when we look at the Eucharist rites itself, Osiris's funerary text that say, drink the wine that Ra has prepared, eat the bread that Ra has prepared. Whoever does this in my name will have eternal life. And the Eleusinian mysteries, those who took part in drinking the kykeon, which was an infusion, grain and grape. You are taking in eating the god Demeter and Bacchus, and those gods would enter you and possess you and give you salvation. When we come back to these memes, when we come back to these Facebook posts about these trinities and gods that are born on December 25th, I just don't understand why people still share these around. They don't help. They don't. If you want to bring down Christianity, this is not the way to do it. This is only helping Christianity have a straw man to attack. A very easy straw man too. By sharing memes like this, you take away from the actual parallels that exist, and you give fundamentalist types an easy defeat, an easy victory over these baseless claims. So who is the dying and rising Son of God? Nature. It is the world that dies every year in the winter and rises every year in the spring. And Jesus, although he probably might have existed when he's being legendized, these are the traits that are attributed to him. And the Nicene preacher and Justin Martyr, as well as Clement of Alexandria, others, are direct evidence in the sources that we can look at. We don't have to make up these memes that are fake. With that being said, you have just attained true gnosis.